Hi, everyone. We're just waiting a minute or two, just letting people join this spotlight session. My name is Rupert Westrup, and I'm a lecturer on the Creative Computing program. And introduce my colleague Louise Glynn, who's another lecturer, Louise. And then we have three students. We have India Heath from second year.
Hi.
Alana Suppler from third year, and Connor Weldon from fourth year. So we don't have any first years. We just thought we'd allow students who've gone through at least a year anyway to talk about the program. And the format, like I'm going to do a very quick presentation about the Creative Computing program, a little bit about IADT, and then Connor, our fourth year student, was going to talk about some of the work he's done, and then Alana will do the same, and then India will do the same. So you should get a good range of student views, and then specifically Connor is going to talk a little bit about, we have a placement program in third year, and talk a bit about that, and Alana will talk about the Erasmus program we have, and which is a chance to go off in third year. It used to be second year, but now it's third year to college somewhere else in Europe. And Louise will be there for questions, as I will myself. So yeah, I guess it's just about 5 past now. So I'll start into the presentation now. I'm just going to share my screen with you, and we'll see how we go here. So I'll just start into this. This is quite a quick presentation. Here we go. So welcome. Yeah, IADT. Yeah, we're I guess a small college compared to TU Dublin or some of the other ones around the place, but I guess we feel that gives us a big advantage in a lot of ways. 2,500 students. We're actually having a new building built at the moment. It's just started, and it's a 20 million euro building, a digital media building. So there'll be plenty of space there for new students, extra students. I think we're going to add on another 600 students to that. So we're not that big, but we're big enough. And we're in this Faculty of Film, Art and Creative Technologies. You can see all the programs there on the right. There's us, Creative Computing, but there's lots of other interesting programs that we have. And you get a chance in first year and second year to do what they call elective programs. So you get a chance to do programs from some of these other interesting programs that go on, like photography or film, TV, and so on, psychology. And creative computing, what is it? Yeah, so I guess it is, I always think of it, it is computing. You learn all the skills in terms of being able to program, to develop web applications, and all the technical skills, but you also learn a lot about design and I guess what they call user interaction, how people work with technology. So it's that combination. It's very kind of interesting and exciting type of take on computing. So there we go. Yeah, it's all very well building applications, but you want to have applications that are people enjoy using and like to use, so they'll use them again. So that's really kind of a focus. But you can see we also really in third year and fourth year particularly get into some really interesting areas of computing, like AI. You might have heard a lot about ChatGPT recently, that they can write your homework for you or whatever. Machine learning, VR, AR, virtual reality, augmented reality. When you think of all the headsets that people have, we've got a course in that, a module in that, at least in third year and fourth year. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And what sets us apart from, I guess, some of the other courses that you might think of applying for, and this is just feedback that we get from our students, that it's very applied, very practical. So, you know, you're not sitting in a big lecture theatre just listening to somebody chatting away about some theory or other. It's all, you go into a lab. So, you know, there's a lecturer there, right? And in the lab, you've got computers, and the lecturer might talk for a little while, but you can try things out on your machine there. So it's very practical. It's a lot of project work. We've got very well, we've got hardly any exams at all. We have some in-class tests, a lot of continuous assessment. So it's more like a sort of work environment in that respect. The class sizes are small, and I guess that makes it nice that, you know, we know you, you know us, everybody's on first name terms. Yeah, and a lot of continuous assessment. So employment, yeah, the type of jobs you can get and careers you can have, designing, developing apps, and some people go into other areas, project management, data science. I had somebody in, one of our graduates in just today, talking to our third years, and he's what they call a pre-sales engineer. So he's doing a sort of combination of talking to customers and explaining how the technology works for a company called HubSpot. So yeah, there's a wide range of careers open to you. This is quite a lot of info to take in, but it's just going through the various modules we have. And I suppose the main thing you can take away from it is, as I say, we've got the techie stuff, you know, in terms of programming, and that goes all the way through. And you develop some, you know, quite big applications by the end of second year. And you have like databases, you've got operating systems, computer architecture. And then you have things like web design, and you've got user experience design, and the more interaction design, I guess the more sort of how people work with the applications, and as well as what I was talking about in terms of the chance to try out other modules from other programs. And then into year 3 and year 4, both of these have a big project. So in third year, there's a professional practice and placement. There's a module there, and this is, you can do a project in IADT, but we encourage people to try and get a placement. And we started this last year, and has proven to be very successful for the students who went off on it. So that's in the second half of third year. In the first half of third year, we have, that's a cloud computing module that Louise teaches, and then various electives you can do. So front-end development, there's back-end development there now as well, and game development. So this is, you know, developing how to develop these web applications. And then in fourth year, we have a big project, which is an individual project you do in the second term. And in the first term, yeah, you can do AR, VR, you can do AI, you can do advanced JavaScript. So there's lots of choice there, a lot of interesting modules. And I just show you, I might just show you here, just this is one of our news stories, and there's Connor, who will be talking to you shortly, and Jake and Paul. So these are 3 of the 4 students who went off on the placement last year. And let me just go back to this again. And yeah, student projects. Yeah, I'd encourage you to have a look at this site. You can get to this from our webpage, and you can have a look at the projects, get a taste of what our students do. And I already talked about the placement. project. And then the other thing that Alana will talk to you a little bit about, this is now actually, that should be third year now, but the chance to go off and to study elsewhere in Europe. And yeah, I guess we're very, very student focused. So, you know, there's assistive technology, there's support for learning, in terms of if there's any issues you have, there's a lot of support out there. We have counseling and health center and so on. Careers as well when it comes to like third year and fourth year. And first year focus, this is, you know, taking the sort of transition going from secondary school to third level education is quite a big step, because it's a lot less sort of, you know, you're kind of allowed to develop by yourself, and you know, somebody's not going to sort of be checking on you so much. So we have this first year focus program for the first few weeks and into the first term of the first year, and it's proven to be very successful as a way of, you know, making that transition into third year or into third level education. There's me, I'm the program chair, and then we've got Fiona and Alison as our faculty administrators. So I think with that, I'll just
Rupert, can I just add a little bit to that?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Would you mind going back to the slide that had the first year and second year modules for just a minute?
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, so it looks like, so just one thing is the integrated project there on first year on the second line, and the software project in second year on the second line of the second year. Just that they're modules that really tie in a lot of work that you do in the other modules. So we're kind of, our course is kind of unique in that we kind of take everything together in one module and allow the students to develop a kind of big project that they do that. And then the transitional studies module and the masterclass module and the elective that are all on the left-hand side of first year and second year. They're modules that you wouldn't get in other institutes as well, where you get to meet students from all over the other courses. So you can make friends outside of the creative computing course. And as Rupert says, you get to do something different outside of your program, something maybe fun, like photography or art or whatever it is. So just wanted to add that as well. Thanks, Rupert.
Well, thanks, Louise. Yeah. No,
also, sorry, I put
yeah.
I could put a couple of links in the chat there. I put the link to the Showcase website, and I put a link to the Creative Computing course on the IADT website, just there in the chat if anyone wants those links as well. Thanks.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll just stop sharing now. And yeah, Connor, will I just hand it over to you and you could maybe demo a couple of things that you're doing or whatever?
Yeah, I think my background messed up. Let me just fix that.
That's okay, Connor, don't worry about it.
No, yeah, so I assume you're able to hear me.
Yeah.
So I do want to actually add to Louise's point is our modules playing into one another, because this year especially, I'm a huge fan of how our course is set up, because everything I've done is kind of leading me up to my thesis. So one thing that we do focus on a lot isn't just, you know, get this done by this date and that's it, you'll never use it again. Everything we do does play a part in our next stuff, which is really nice. And it's one thing I really like, because it feels like I'm building something. I'm not just making something really quick and throwing it away. And of course, for my thesis, it's very important. So I did want to stress that as well. So yeah, what I want to show you today is I'm going to show you the process of how you go through one of the projects that you do, and which would be designing a web application. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. So I'm going to show you from the very beginning, the planning phase. So this is what your initial planning phase would be, and it's very mundane. And in fact, you wouldn't want it to be to this level. This would be just entry. You'd have all your thing, and the goal with it would be to get it to this level, where you'd have your inspirations, and then my inspiration was here. all my medical sites I use and stuff from Dribbble, which is a website platform that shows other people's websites that they've created. Then I would go in, and the way I like to do my stuff, I like to draw because it allows me to visualize everything a lot better. So I would draw my sketches, plan out my stuff. So this here I was planning on for a mobile application. So this is what I'd look on a phone. Down here is what would be on a computer screen, or like an iPad, and then this is just a different screen. And then I would transition that into here. So if you can see, this corresponds to this here. And this will correspond to this one, and this one corresponds here. So this would be my process on my website when I was checking out. It'd go through all this, put in your details. And I always created 2 versions, one for a computer or a tablet, and then one for mobile. And same with here, my computer version and my mobile version. And that's called responsive layout, but of course you won't really be too worried about that too early on. But that is the process in which I go through when I'm designing. I'll get my inspiration, I'll look at a lot of websites. I think I have 12 here altogether. And I take snippets of each one, what I like this part, and I brought it over into my own. I'll start sketching. And one thing about this, so I'm using Miro here, is that your lecturers can actually give you feedback. So I probably didn't have stuff in at a certain time and he was telling me where are they. Here he's showing me how I could display it. And I think another one, he even puts in the actual dimensions for it. So one thing with Miro is it's very interactive, and it's like a dummy Photoshop in a sense that people can leave you notes, and I could even leave my own sticky notes on it if I wanted to leave a point, and I can make him as big or as small as I'd like. So after that, you would go into the code. Now, I don't want to show you too much because I'm in 4th year and I don't want to be too intimidating. But you do start from the basics. I had no experience coming in, and I'd like to think I'm somewhat feasible at this stage. But you do go into code, and I comment all your code, telling it what to do. But this is quite big, as I said. I won't show you it, but that would be your next stage. And then after that, what we did this year, is we hosted it. So I use Vercel to host my app this year. Vercel is just a website that can link to your GitHub, and the GitHub is where I'm storing my code, which is here. But I'll go into that in a minute. And then it pulls your GitHub and it actually hosts my website. So then I can have it here. I had a slideshow. I go in here of all, and it loads. I can edit and delete. And this is where I was hosting my website. And where it's pulling this code from is GitHub, which is this here. And this is all my code. And it's basically just a big place that store all your data and stuff. And it's really nice. It's where I store all my projects, which I'll show you really quickly. And so I have my 11 repositories, and it does keep track as well of how active you are. So because I'm doing my thesis, I don't think I've missed a day so far. So it's not too fun, but it's great. But it's good for lecturers to see that you are working throughout your whole project, and you're not just, doing everything last minute. Another nice thing about Vercel as well is why I chose it is that you do have the option to look at its deployments, and it'll show you the process in which it went through to make it. And you can also, you go into the settings, you can alter its domain. So I could call this whatever I like. At the moment, this is what it is here, but it does make 3 domains for you. It'll make one with your name, which mine's Conor Rodden, and then it'll make one like this, and then it'll make one which whatever you want to call it, which mine was CA2 Scaffold. So it is a really nice app. You get to keep the project analytics throughout. So yeah, and then I'll show you what I'm doing now for my actual thesis. And I said I won't intimidate you too much, but the way it is set up is that we have an IDT project, and I submit my code to this as often as I can. So a lot of my work at the moment is really just doing a lot of my reports. So I've one on Azure Face API, which is using the Azure Cognitive Services that Microsoft own. And what I hope to make is a facial recognition, a scanner that can scan your emotions. And I'm also making a digital device, so it's going to be in a mirror. So it's going to be like you have a mirror on your wall and it'll be interactive. And kind of like how Siri, I plan to make it register who you are, and it'll tell how you're feeling. And let's say you're tired, it'll give you a list of your timetable and just kind of wake you up. But at the moment, I have it very bare. So this is it at the moment. And as I said, I comment everything, and it's very important to do this throughout your entire year because it gets you extra marks and it shows that you actually understand your code. You're not just copying and pasting. But yeah, as I said, it's very bare, but this, even though it's only 46 lines, it still does a lot. So this at the moment could scan my face. But yeah, so that is the process in which you will go through things. As I said, you don't need to do stuff like drawing. You probably should be doing this though, collecting inspiration from other websites. Because as much as we might think we're great, there's always something that you don't realize, and everything kind of has to be to a point. Like you can't just be making this a random size. You have to have a reason why it's this width, because everything follows up in different layouts. People have phones, different size screens. So you have to be very exact in that sense. I do want to say as well before I end is that I know a lot of people come in are worried about maths and if they have to be very brainy to get in and very brainy to even begin any of this stuff. But I had no experience coming into code at all. I think you only need to pass ordinary level maths or I think grade 1 or 2. I think we need to get in. So don't be worried, and everything is taught you from scratch. And the last thing I'll show is also for my thesis, and these are called mind maps, which are quite intimidating as well. So I basically break up what I want to do, and I categorize it, so emotional recognition, and these are different articles that correlate to this. And I've done this basically throughout my code, and it gives me good things when I'm writing up my report. I can reference these articles, kind of put it into my own words in that sense. So yeah, I think that's all I want to show you because I don't want to scare you off too much just yet.
Well, thanks very much, Connor. Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, Alana, we would just move on to yourself then.
Sounds good. I assume everyone can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. So third year is the first year where you actually get to choose the modules you want to participate in. And the modules that I was or that I chose for this specific year was the backend development and also game development, which hopefully game development is something that I assume a good part of you find very interesting. But to emphasize on how important, as Connor has mentioned, actually drawing out your methods or how you want to actually develop everything, the first steps always that we get taught is to put it down on paper. You can hear so many other lectures that nag about talk about showing the way you think and actually backing up why you decide to do specific choices. And here for the back end, to not get too technical, we decide on how to make a database because where the back end part of it is to make an API. And for this, we have to actually design a database, and we do this step by step. And my database was supposed to be based around plants. So the first task we had was to design how we wanted it to look like. Obviously, at the first step, it wasn't too difficult. And then after that, we just continued with lovely help from our lecturers to start coding, which is always the next step. But we always got, which I find really nice about IADT, since we're such a small class, we can ask the lecturers for a lot of different questions and have different methods and functionalities that we would like to implement. So, sorry. Yeah, the next step would always be the coding part. And then from here, the lecturers can come with additional features that they think that you might be willing to implement. And then you can continue here, and they are completely open for you to test and try new things, even though it doesn't have much to do perhaps with backend. And if you are like, I really want to build this application forwards, you can then start going into making it look really nice and adding extra features and going way far and beyond, which is always a highlight for the lectures when you see students go way further than they were actually imagining was the goal for that specific course. But since I talked about game development, which I assume a lot of you would be very intrigued in looking at, the first steps was that we wanted to figure out what our game was going to be about. So me and my partner, we decided on a few controls and features that we wanted to be a part of our game. So we just set up a standard form, added a few extra specifications because we really wanted our theme to be based around frogs and swamps. Don't ask why. It was more of an inside joke thing. But the most important part of a game is obviously not just the gameplay, but actually setting an environment that the player will be intrigued by and also get them invested in what your story and what we want to show you, basically. So the important parts, as Connor's mentioned previously, is actually visualizing and setting everything up and planning before you jump in and start coding or start making different models and everything. So we took a few parts from from different kind of games that we wanted to look at, and we wanted ours to start off in space. So we took a few features and a few design principles from previously implemented games, and we wanted stuff to be very strongly lit and feel kind of empty, but also dark. So we tried to find some nice color schemes that would match this, but we also wanted to make it heavily green because the theme was frog, which I find really fun in IDT, that even though if you have an insane or very unique perspective of how you want your project to go forwards, they have no problem with you adding creative liberties to your projects, as long as you actually do the work and start implementing everything the way that you want it and everything works perfectly. And after that, we did some storyboarding. And thankfully, they weren't too critical about my drawing skills. So, which I find also really nice, that IDT has the option for, you always have two groups of people in the classes. One group that is heavily into designing and how everything visually looks, which I find really cool, but I'm not an expert at it. But then you also have the other group of people who are very interested in the back end and heavily focused on the programming elements. And both groups of people are fully accepted, even for the internship that Connor will be talking about later. You could go for internships that focus for development, but they are also completely open for if you wanted to do anything with UX and UI design. So even though this is a programming degree, they have no problem with you focusing specifically on design. So hopefully,
Anna, do you want to say just briefly about, because you're doing your placement right now, aren't you?
oh yeah, yeah, I'm doing my placement with a company called GladCloud, which helps different companies advertise for their products. And the company I'm working for is focusing mostly on programming, but they are completely open for me taking some creative liberties and helping the UX and UI department develop different interfaces and designs for the pages of their website. And quite excitingly, they want me to create something called context analysis, and they are trying to teach me some machine learning features as well. So it's not like everything you get taught in class will be what you'll be working at, but thankfully most of the languages and all the topics and architecture that you do get taught in at least my 2.5 years in IADT have been completely relevant for my work placement at the moment. For databases, you learn a language called SQL, and for front end, you learn React if you choose that, or Vue, depending on what the teacher decides. And for back end, you learn PHP, and all of them have been very useful to know for my program with the company. Well, but to the fun game part, after we have done the storyboarding and everything, we used a game engine that is called Unity. So I assume most of you who are interested in developing games have heard of Unity. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a very nice interface, and it also works with C#. And I wanted to show you at least the first parts of the game, if that's it, with Rupert, if you don't have a problem with me showing a bit of it. It won't be too long.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of acronyms flying around there, so SQL and
I'm sorry. If there's anything that you're getting confused by, please tell me.
yeah, look, I suppose, even though you're only you're only kind of at the start, you're saying things that might be totally unrecognizable, but don't, for the students or prospective students, don't be worrying. You'll be starting from scratch, as they all say.
And don't worry, all the teachers are really nice, and they will definitely help you at every step of the way. So if you have any questions, no matter what the level, they'll definitely help you. And as you can see, the frog theme is still a huge part of it. But I won't show you the whole game because it's quite long. But yeah, the whole concept of this game is just that it's a first-person shooting game. This is obviously the hub, but they let you develop as much as you want and go as far as you would like, which I find really fun. There is no limitations to what you can do as long as you reach certain benchmarks. So there are a few other class students who have made some amazing things. And Connor is very high up there in what he has developed so far. So he is definitely the person you should aspire to be when you start this course. So yeah. But that's mostly.
You're doing this project with someone else. This is your third year main project, or is it this your project for the games module?
Oh, this is what I developed with Angie, who was my partner for this project, and this was for the game development module.
Okay.
And for the big project, if you don't do an internship, you can do develop a game with a partner for 3 months, which just imagine how much you could create within 3 months. Or you could go and develop a web application using front end and an API and back end. So yeah, there are tons of options for you.
A few more acronyms there. But
Sorry.
great. Okay, well, thanks very much, Alana. And maybe just the time, what about we go on to our second year student, who's India Heath. So India, is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Right. Just share now, 1 sec. Okay, so a lot of the stuff that I'm probably going to talk about now is stuff that Connor has already gone through. At the beginning of this year, we had a whole module on UX, and this was our first sort of experience with the whole process. So yeah, like Connor already said, you kind of start off with your research, and I'll skip through most of it because it's already been covered. But a big thing that we did in developing, so we're developing an app. We had to do a lot of testing. So the user testing was actually a really interesting part. And we used this online platform called Maze. So we could give our users little tasks to do, and then we could see how well, like how easy was it for them to do the specific task. And then we had to go back to our design and change things. And that would sort of influence the final product. So it kind of really showed me how much time goes into building an app so that it's easy and it's intuitive to use. Because you know how your app works, but like a lot of little things, I had to add a button to apply filters because people were getting confused on how to get out of my filter menu, and I thought, oh, that's really obvious, isn't it? But it's not. So a lot of stuff like that in the design process. And that's sort of like a final prototype that I came out with. And then for the class that led directly on from this, it was to actually build not this app, but a website version of it. So it doesn't exactly look like the app, but the same sort of idea is there. And part of this class was to get used to using the framework Bootstrap. And what that is so you have your HTML and your CSS, and your HTML is like your building blocks of your website, and your CSS is what makes it look a certain way, because it puts things in different positions of your screen, and you have a lot more control how things look. And Bootstrap is like you can put on top of that kind of make things a bit easier. Someone has made all these things for you. Anyway, so our project that I just finished, so I just finished this just after Christmas. Similar to Connor, we deployed the website, so you can kind of go to this odd URL and look at it if you want. Anyway, so to give it a small demonstration, the kind of basic stuff that we do in second year, you can see it's a small part of what you do further on. So we have this responsiveness that Connor was talking about. Obviously, his is a lot more in depth than mine is, but I'll get there eventually. And what I enjoyed a lot about this class was we were given the basics of like, here's a few things you can do, but we just were told to go and read the documentation for Bootstrap. Go read it, go figure it out, try things. If you get stuck, come back and we'll help you. Which I really liked, because you can kind of go as deep into it as you want to. You know, you can put a lot more time into one aspect if you're interested in it. Anyway, so that's a bit of my, this is the HTML of the page. And then what I use to style it is all of these little CSS classes. And the thing that we also learned, and it's a lot of jargon that people aren't going to really retain right now, but we used Sass as well, which was fun. It was a whole another thing that I could look into and, you know, go extra in depth and things if you were interested in it. Yeah, so that's the project that we've just finished for second year. So you can kind of see these are the building blocks for what you go into a lot more in depth, like Connor said as well, in fourth year. I would have also liked to show the other project that I did, but sadly my laptop is getting repaired, so this is all I have access to at the moment. But I thought maybe it could be interesting, something that I did in first year, just to give a bit of context as to what you could start with. So this is my code. It was just to build a little game. So I think we did this, I don't know if it was the first term or the second term, but it was within first year. If it
Probably was the first term then, was it? Yeah.
It was, yeah, it could have been the first term. So this would have been within the first couple of months of the of starting the course for me. So it's just a fun little game. It's not particularly sophisticated, but you know, you click around, things get smaller, and then that comes up, which is it's fun. But I suppose that's sort of,
Yeah, you started off with processing there, that little
Mm.
application you had open. So we start with that because the lecture is kind of, oh, maybe we've changed now, have we, Rupert, to using P5?
Yeah,
But we start with-
P5.js, but it's very similar.
Yeah, a simple language to start off with as far as like, you know, that coding goes. Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, that's well, thanks, Alana. That's really handy, and I think just getting a sense of what you can do after a few months is nice to see.
Maybe India and Connor could put the links to their websites that are live into the chat, so the students could have a little look around.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And yeah, if anybody has any questions, just pop them into the chat and we can talk to them. This is a great opportunity to talk to myself and Louise and to you know our three students as well. So make the most of it. With that, I was just wondering, would we just go back to Connor and just have Connor talk about his placement? As I said, saying Connor was one of the first batch of students to go off on placement. Is that okay, Connor? Would you just have a quick chat about that?
Yeah, of course. So I do want to start off. I absolutely loved my placement. I loved it so much. I'm working again this year, which is probably not the smartest, but I do love it, and I got completely obsessed with it. And if you do have the opportunity, definitely take it. The best part about the placement is that you do get to see what you do in college and how it kind of correlates to a work life. And it's very rewarding, because sometimes I think, especially I did mine in third year, I think it is in third year this year as well. And you do see after 3 years, you might start to think like, how does this actually play in? Am I just making this to learn it? And you do get to see then how your work will be applicable. So that's one thing I think was really beneficial for me, especially for the placement. And I got really lucky with my placement in that they let me kind of have a look at everything and then focus on what I liked. So I started off first doing QA testing, which is quality assurance testing. So once our developers were done with the code, they'd send it on to me. I would find if there's any bugs with it. If I find a bug, I'll type it up, say where the bug is, how it happens, and I'll assign it to a developer. They could send it to me then back, and I can tell them if they fix it. Boom, I'd sign it off. If not, go back and do it again. And then I got to actually go into developing, and I will actually screen share because I do have my stuff. So I do want to show this first. I do have a lot in here. So this is throughout my entire stay. And as you can see, I did a lot of reports in here for them and for the college throughout, because you have to make sure that you're keeping up to date and I'm not just hiding away. And so once this loads for me, my computer is not the best at the moment. So this would be one of the reports I did when I was in QA testing. So this would be the name of it, which is 7571, which I know it's not very applicable. And these correspond to specific builds as well. So we had different testing builds. And when I say different, like we had at least probably 1,000 of these. and you'd be testing it out on different devices, different operating systems, Android and iOS. So if you have an iPhone or if you've just an Android phone, if there is an issue, I'd say what the issue is. I'd tell you. So here I told them it's unresolved, so they didn't fix it. And here it's I was unable to reenact the problem, so I found the problem didn't happen on this specific type of phone. And then afterwards, I tell them how you get through to reenact it, and then my conclusion, what needs to be done, and so forth. So these are the type of reports I was doing in QA. And I found that really, really nice because especially starting off with there, it gave me an overlook at what the team was doing. So before I got to jump into the other ends, because they do just throw you in the deep end in that sense, you do get to kind of oversee everything. So I had an idea at least. So then what I did, I was on the design team. So I got to work with doing stuff like this, creating models. And so this was a team page I actually got to develop and was used in the phone. So this would be a dummy of it. So what we were developing was a multi-email app that could like incorporate Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail all into one place. And the whole process is, as I said, I won't intimidate you too much with it, but it goes through stuff like this. And what the language we use in this is called Kotlin. And it's very good if you're looking to do a lot of Android development. So it's definitely something you should look into if that's something you are interested in. So after we did all that, I did have to write a report. So this was my closing report, and this is what it looked like. And I probably did it a bit overkill, but anyway. So this is how I began. I described my story. I showed these are the companies they work with. And it's a very large company. It was American-based. And a lot of my team was actually only one other Irish. I was working with a lot of foreign people and a lot from India, which was really cool. I got to see different cultures, and it really let me learn how they operate and how I can put that into my work. Because in Ireland, even though we are quite advanced in the tech space, we still are very far behind compared to like the Americans and Germany and all that stuff, and of course Asia. So this was my overview, my actual overview of my entire thing. So this is what they set out for me first, where I did my QA team, I went in the project, and it's all a lot, but this is what I got to do throughout the whole thing. And these were the people who were looking after me, and it was great. And by the end, I had nobody working after me. So like, they gave me a lot of trust throughout, and I really enjoyed it. I did also get to do automation, which was really cool and really interesting. So I was converting the code. I think they had it in Java at the time, and I converted it all to Kotlin. And I created a way to automate it, and I'd do it automatically, and it might have just minor errors in which I then could go in and fix up. So that was really cool. Of course, I got to do a bit of the development, which included the actual coding of this, as well as the design. And then this is my reflection. So this is one thing you do. And I also did a PowerPoint. So after the whole thing is finished and you're back in college, you do have to do a PowerPoint along with your report, and you present it to John Montaigne, who was my lecturer at the time, who was in charge of this. And I think Rupert and a couple others as well we went through. So once again, I just went through explaining everything, broke it down. But this is what you would be looking at when you finish. And as I show in my report, I had a lot of errors. So do not worry about that as you go through it. You get to see the process of how things adapt and go on. And it is really interesting, the whole thing. And getting to work, for me, was one of the best things that I got to do. As I said, so much so I'm doing it this year again. So given the opportunity, definitely do it. But yeah, I think
that's brilliant. Yeah. Thanks, Connor. Yeah, no, it sounds like you got a lot out of it, which is great. And Alana, then just another feature of the program is the fact that we have these the possibility of going off on an Erasmus program in third year. And Alana, when Alana did it, it was second year. Now I know it was during COVID time, so it was maybe not the way that it normally works out. But I'll hand it over to you, Alana. Thanks.
Yeah, well, I went to Stuttgart in Germany for my Erasmus exchange, which, as Rupert said, unfortunately was during COVID, but still, we got to experience quite a lot of different things. One of the highlights, I think, was that we got to work with IBM and some of their design courses that were sponsored, and one of the main employees, where I think his name was Kurtz, was showing us how IBM actually makes and designs different kind of mobile app programs. And I saved some of the stuff that we were working on specifically for the mobile app design. And I was thinking of showing some of this off. So one of the first things that we went through is we used an application called Figma, which we used to design and not develop, but mostly design the different applications that we wanted to create. And our team decided to focus on an environmental application. And we were trying to figure out how would the best way of sharing information on how to be more environmentally friendly. So we went through multiple different segments on first what our theme was supposed to be about, and then after that, how do we lure in customers? How do we keep them on our application, and how do we make them actually use the application consistently? Because I assume some of you also have had the experience that you downloaded this app, thought it was fun for maybe a few days or an hour at most, and then you just ended up leaving it after a while. So through the whole process, we went through different iterations, and this is what we called a high fidelity, which is that you have a design that is not developed. Don't worry, there was no code involved, but we designed the application. We didn't focus on colors because that wasn't the main part of it yet. That was later. And then we've tried to show users how we ideally would want them to use our application. So the nice feature with Figma is that you can link different screens to each other, and then you can let the user actually walk through it and use it as if it was a fully developed app. And then after that, they would give us feedback of what we needed to improve. And yeah, and then we continued from there, and we used even more iterations. We had so many hours, as you can see, of different iterations of this mobile app. I remember still we had a whole day that we were discussing what kind of color we would like, and we kept going back and forwards between two different kinds of greens. It was quite a hectic day, surprisingly. And then after that, we made a report and tried to justify our decisions with both user testing and comments and feedbacks we got from teachers and also from people that tested our application, and what our goal was for future development if we wanted to continue developing it further, because we had a different course that was in the second semester that yourself and another team would be creating a web application. And you could decide if you wanted to actually develop this further or if you wanted to make something from scratch. Well, my team decided to make something from scratch, so it wasn't quite the same. But another fun thing about Stuttgart and actually doing Erasmus, except for the courses, is that you get to not just do German classes, which I thought was a lot of fun, because then you got to work on not just relevant school material, but actually learn a different language as well. and you got to go around, or the first month I got to go around before the lockdown officially started. And we had different activities that would happen. They will have history walks that would take you around Stuttgart, and you would learn all the different buildings and what happened mostly during the Second World War. And you would also get introduced to some bakeries that were there and historic foods from Stuttgart, and it was a lot of fun. And thankfully, since we live in a apartment building, there was tons of stuff that we could do, even though I was in lockdown, that we would arrange. We would have huge dinner parties because we were all from different parts of the world. So we would introduce each other to our different cuisines, and then we would arrange different sports days. It would, I, if you had the opportunity and if you were willing to go to a different country, even though they speak a different language, I would definitely advise you to do so. It was an experience beyond belief, and it was a lot of fun, even though I was locked to be in a 2-kilometer radius of my building. But it was definitely something I would recommend you guys to do. And you guys would have a better experience because you actually get to explore the whole of Germany, because the trains or the rail system is really good there, so you get to go all over. And there's this huge amusement park around an hour away called Europa Park. So I recommend you guys to go there as well.
Well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Thanks very much, Alana. Yeah, and I know students through the years have gone to Stuttgart and really enjoyed the experience and learned a lot as well. And I just heard that the students over there really help the Irish students going to Stuttgart. So
Oh yeah,
thanks.
totally. They have they focus on a few different languages as well and different ways of thinking. So you get to sort of show what you've learned from IADT and then combine it with what they have learned, and then you can develop some very interesting things, I believe. So definitely would recommend it.
Great. So I just see we're just coming up to 6 o'clock now. I don't know. Don't seem to be any questions there. So hopefully we've kind of answered all the questions you would have had, and you can always contact. There's email addresses. There's the admissions. I guess the CAO is the 1st of Feb, and DL836 is our code. So put us number 1. But no, it's hopefully you found that of interest, and have a look at our webpage. You can look at the stuff there, and you can look at past projects as well and get a really good sense of what we do. And great, yeah. And hopefully we'll see you in September. Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And we'll leave it there then. And I'd like to thank all our Alana and Connor and India for taking part, and Louise as well. Thanks, guys, and Orla for organising. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much, guys. That was
Thank you.
brilliant.
Thank you.